Openness is definitely becoming a trend that it's just hitting me over the head over the last 10 years that the future is openness, and the open companies and the open individuals and the open governments are the ones that are going to succeed and the ones that are going to win. Okay, so those are just some things about the last 10 years, but let's talk about Twitter. So I want to tell you the story of Twitter, and then when I'm done telling the story of Twitter, I want to explain a little bit about where we're headed next. So Twitter was a side project, as I mentioned. We were supposed to be working on something else. We were supposed to be developing a service, a podcasting service called Audio. This is something that my co-founder Evan Williams and I thought was a very good idea. The idea that you could record your own radio program using an internet browser or a telephone, and we would convert it to an MP3, and we would send it out to your friends who had iPods. And this sounded like a great idea. iPods were getting very popular, and we could sort of democratize audio information, just like we had worked on blogging to democratize information. And we thought, of course, this is a great idea. We started working on it, and it was doing well, but we were not using our own service. We were more interested in simpler things like text. So that was a bad sign that we weren't using it ourselves. And so there came a certain point where our minds started to wander, and we wondered, is there something else that we should be maybe working on? And that's when Twitter happened. And this is a very early sketch of what Twitter was. My co-founders for Twitter are Evan Williams, who I've worked with for many years, a collaborator of many years, and Jack Dorsey, who was an engineer at Audio. And we were talking together, and Jack Dorsey said, Jack had a history in writing software for dispatch, so ambulances, couriers, that sort of thing, taxi cabs. And he was fascinated by this idea of knowing where all the taxi cabs were at any given point. And he knew of Evan and I's work over the last 10 years in trying to democratize information and make it sort of available to everyone. And he was also fascinated by the very simple concept of the away message in instant message applications like AIM. So if you've ever used one, you know that you can set your away message. It's the reason why you're not currently online, currently available, because you're in a meeting, because you're out getting coffee, because you're sick, because you're just too angry to talk to anyone right now, whatever. And he said, if you look at your group of friends or colleagues on this list, you kind of get a sense of what they're all doing. It's interesting. And he said to us, do you think we could make a whole service just out of this? And it seemed interesting. And when we added in the idea that you could receive and create these updates through mobile texting, something that was becoming very popular around the world, then it really became compelling to us. And we thought, this could be good. It's very conceptual, but the idea of sharing these tiny messages away from your computer so that you're no longer at the office, you are out in the world and you're doing things. Maybe this could be interesting. So we took 2 weeks and we built a prototype, Jack and I. And the idea being that we would have 2 weeks to spend on it, get something working, and share it with our friends and colleagues. And if they didn't like it, we would kill the project. So what we did was we rushed and we built something in 2 weeks, and we asked our friends to try it out. And it was funny because my first experience with it was my wife and I had just bought a house in Berkeley, California, and there was a heat wave going on that particular week. And I decided that it would be a good idea to tear out all of the carpeting by myself in the house, do some home renovation because I'm such an expert. And it was terrible. It was a horrible idea. It was a terrible job. I was sweating. My back hurt. I was discovering things underneath the carpet that I will not discuss here in mixed company. And as I was doing this and sweating, my phone vibrated in my pocket, and I reached in, I took it out, and it was Evan Williams, my co-founder, and he had written a tweet that said, "Enjoying a glass of Pinot Noir after a massage in Napa Valley." And I started laughing, and my wife thought I was crazy, of course. Why did I marry this guy? And she started laughing, I started laughing, and I realized that if this was making me laugh, then it was good enough to keep working on it. And that's, again, where humor comes in a big part, because I laughed, let's keep working on it. And so we did. And some early critics of Twitter, as we were working, a couple months later, they said, Twitter is fun, but it's not useful. And I remember distinctly my co-founder, Evan Williams, very quickly and dryly responding to him, neither is ice cream. Should we stop making ice cream? And I think it's a good story to tell, because it gives you an idea of what we were thinking at the time. Maybe it is just fun. So what? It's so the world can't have a fun service that's interesting to use with friends and colleagues. Are you gonna, fault us for that? Okay, fine. Let's keep working on it. Maybe it's for fun. And so we did, because that was enough for us. But then some other things started to happen, and they started to make us think a little bit more seriously about what we'd created, because we had created a different kind of model. It wasn't a social network. It was a very open network. Anyone could share information with anyone else. Anyone could follow any other account. And the first thing that happened was we had started accumulating enough users that, it was very small, but it was significant. And we went to a conference in Texas in 2007. A few months after we had started working on the prototype, we went to this conference. And what happened was there was enough people using Twitter at this conference that some interesting things took place. For example, two things that happened. The conference had many concurrent sessions going on at once. So there would be a conference in one room and a conference in another room. And I was in a conference, and I saw all of these people standing up, for apparently no reason, and just leaving in the middle of the conference. And I'd never seen anything like it before. I'd been going to this conference for 5 years. And I realized it was because they were sharing information on their mobile phones and on their laptops that this conference is boring, but the one across the hallway is very interesting. And so they just left. And I had never seen anything like it. And later that night, because this conference, although it is an internet conference, it's also a big party. And everyone drinks and goes to bars at night. There's a very nice strip in Austin, Texas, with a lot of bars and things. So at night, we saw this one guy. I heard about this one guy who, he wanted to talk to his friends more, and the bar he was at was very crowded. So he sent out a simple tweet that said, this bar is too crowded, I'm going to go to this other bar, and he named the bar. And in the 10 minutes it took him to walk to the other bar, it had completely filled to capacity, and there was a line out the door. So his plan totally backfired. But what was amazing about it was that bar had previously been empty, and what had happened was he sent out one tweet. It went out to his 50 or 100 followers. Each one of those people, about half of them, sent out a tweet to their followers, and so on and so on. And in a matter of 10 minutes, this mob moved to this new location. And this is something that occurred to us that it couldn't happen with any other technology. There is no other real-time, instant, multi-device technology that allows you to send a message like this in real time to all these people and spread the news. And the metaphor that came to mind is that of a flock of birds moving around an object in flight. They look so choreographed. They look so beautiful, as if they practice every night, but they don't. It's rudimentary communication between individuals in real time that enables them to move as one. So we were seeing people move as one. And that was something that was definitely opening our eyes to something that maybe this wasn't ice cream anymore. Maybe this was a new form of communication, something that the world hadn't seen yet, and something that the world didn't know it needed, and maybe it did need it.